Hello and welcome to the Coon Hunting University podcast. This is your host, Tyler Duncan, and like always, class is in session. Coon Hunting University is brought to you by Conkey's Outdoors, hunting and hound supply store. Find out more at conkeys.outdoors.com. And Superior Hunting Lights. Superior, step up to the max. Use discount code CHU podcast at checkout and receive 5% off on nighthunters.com. So it's me, Mr. Eddie Simmons are here. We're here, and you ready to get kicked off or what?
Yeah.
All right. So I've been looking forward to this one, man. I think it's going to be really good, and I know the folks are going to enjoy it.
What's going on, buddy?
Oh, not much out of you.
All doing pretty good. Been kind of looking forward to this, and
that's good.
So, Kevin, kind of before we get kicked off, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
30 years old. I've coon hunted pretty much my whole life, and just kind of always been a dream to make it, make it a life where I can live it and make a living out of doing it. And I guess you can just say it was a dream come true. Yeah, for sure. How'd you get your start into coon hunting? My grandpa, Carl Hall, which would have been my mom's dad. He always coon hunted, and then my uncle James Tyree kind of took me a bunch once he got up where he couldn't take me no more. James used to always take me, and he got to drag me around to the hunts and just kind of took off from there.
So how old do you think you was, Kevin, when you started going to the competition hunts?
I was 8 years old. I won my first youth hunt when I was 8. I finished fourth in a little youth hunt here down the road from the house at Liberty Coon Club.
Wow, that's impressive. Well, let me ask you this, backing up a little bit. How many hunts did you have to compete in before you got a CW, before you was a cast winner?
I'd say the first one I hunted in, I won my cast, and like I said, finished fourth, and then I did pretty good that year. I placed in several that year. Probably before I lost, I probably won 4 or 5 before I ever lost a cast.
Get out of here. Whose dog was you hunting, Kevin?
I was hunting a little female that James gave me. Her name was Coyote Jody. So she was my dog, and he gave her to me, and I hunted her and hunted a little bit through the week and hunted the weekends when Dad would take me, or Dad usually would take me out to James's, and I'd stay out there for the weekend.
Get out of here. When he started teaching you where you would be ready, I mean, did he just take the rules or did he concentrate on you knowing what the dog sounded like? I guess I'm asking, what kind of plan did he use on you to get you ready?
He just told me to know my dog, and the rest would fall in place. Well, so I just went out there and struck and treated my dog, and as I went to hunts, I got different lessons. They used to call them $25 lessons, and just kind of, try not to make the same mistake twice.
Well, you was paying attention, buddy. You was listening, paying attention, because you sure done well.
So what were some of your accomplishments kind of prior to owning the big money dogs?
My lady female, I won I guess before a dog I had called Coon Dog Jim, I won I believe it was the 2005 PKC Youth World with him. I owned him myself. And then in 2009, I had a female called Lady. I ended up placing her in the top 6 of the Super Stakes, and then I also got in the finals of the Youth World with her. I got second that year with her in the Youth World.
So with those dogs, did you ever breed them or anything, or are you still hunting anything off that at all?
I ended up breeding Lady a couple times. I bred her to Zeb 3, which off of that litter, there was 3 Super Stake champions off of that one litter. They won the 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, and the 3-year-olds, which they was off of my female and Zeb 3. But then I bred her a couple times to Big Money. but never really had nothing that suited me for me to keep it. There's some decent dogs out of them, but not what I liked.
Yeah. So tell me the story about how you ended up with big money.
A boy down the road here had him, and I hunted. He worked second shift. He worked swing shift so many days, and then second shift. And when he worked on second shift, we always got up together and hunted some. And his name was Travis Allfield. And I always liked the dog, and I always tried to buy him, and I never could get the dog bought. And he placed him in the finals of the baby stakes. And I told Larry Danner, the guy I was hunting for at the time, I said, I know where a dog's at, but I can't get it bought. And he said, just stay on him. Well, I stayed on him, and Travis was fixing to get married, and he called me and priced him, and I went and bought him. When I picked him up and got to hunting him there, and I always kind of thought it was funny because my Uncle James, he said, I don't know what you seen in that dog. He said, but you got your work cut out for you. I said, I'm telling you, he's a good one. Well, I hunted him a couple months there and kind of got the rough edges off of him, and I went to winning with him pretty regular. And I placed him as a 1-year-old. I won 3 earlies, never could win a late round with him. And then I got him in the final 3 as a 2-year-old in the super stakes, and then come back and got him in the finals again as a 3-year-old, and then got 4th. But we always was knocking on the door. I just couldn't get over that hump with him. I won a pro hunt with him, placed in several pro hunts with him, just never could get over that hump for a big one. And then we end up winning the truck with him. Then I started studying him out.
And I'm kind of going to ask this as if I know, because we talked about this before, but there's no money in stud dogs, right?
No, that's my uncle. He always told me the whole time growing up. He said there's only money in 2 different types of dogs: a brood female and selling a dog. So he said there's so many stud dogs out there. He said you'll never make no money on them. Well, I started breeding him, and I got to making quite a bit of money on him. And it's kind of just a little joke me and him's got. Every time he comes over here, I said, man, I'm sure glad there ain't no money in stud dogs. He said, you proved me wrong. He said, you've done good, which he's happy for me, but it's just kind of a little joke. He's always been for the pups and selling young dogs and breeding females. And I kind of went the other way on it and was real successful with it.
Kevin, I kind of been blessed to watch you through the years, but I made just a little short list here. You won the Youth World Championship. You won the Pup Shootout. Old Bank, you won the World Championship with him. You're a ACHA World Champion. Your lifetime earnings is $287,000, and that is 8th on the all-time PKC winning list. And I know there's a lot of things I didn't mention, but that's quite accomplishments. And you just said you're 30 years old, and that's a big deal. But I know you've worked hard for that. And I was telling Tyler, I've had the opportunity to hunt with your dogs, and them dudes, what I've seen out of them, they go hunting. They're very accurate, and they're good tree dogs. Are they born with that, Kevin, or are you just that good of training dogs? And I'm being serious. I'm not asking you to brag, because you don't brag, but I mean, what's the deal?
I'm a firm believer in good dogs are born, not made. I go through a bunch of dogs that people don't see, that are decent dogs and would suit certain people around my house, but they're not going to suit me when I get in my truck and drive 10 hours to Mississippi. To me, for the difference with the dogs I keep, they got big motors, they're fast, they're looking at tree coons, and they're just naturally independent. If they don't have certain traits, when I see them as a pup, even though they're a good dog, they're not what I'm looking for, because I'm looking for that extra. And I think that's where a lot of people get hung up, is they get caught on looking for something. Well, yeah, this is a good dog. I'll be able to mold it, do this and do that with it. Not saying that I don't ever correct them or do certain things to them, but the least you can do possible, the better off you are. And I think that's where I have success, as far as being able to win in Indiana, Texas, wherever I decide to go. I can win with the dogs that I keep, because the way they hunt, the way they move, they're just so natural about doing it. Like Big Money, his dad, I hunted with him, Big D. which everybody knows him. He was a big hunting, moving type of dog that's done winning all over the country. Big Money's mom, Red Oak Diamond Ring, she was just a local female here around the house, but I hunted with her a bunch, and she was a dead loner and had a big set of wheels and treated a lot of coons. So I kind of go through a bunch of them, but I seem to keep finding that same trait in these dogs because of their movement, and that's the way their ancestors was, and it was just a natural ability. I think a lot of people get away from when they breed dogs, they just get to looking for, well, this dog does this and this dog does that, but they don't look about, well, what was that dog when it was young? What was his natural ability before a good handler got it and put his finishing touches on it? Because a dog can't reproduce traits that are man-made. They can only reproduce natural traits. I think that's where a lot of people get away from breeding. They just look at a dog's winning rate, and it's hard for that dog to reproduce because it's not natural to it.
Well, and I understand 100% about natural dogs, but even with a natural dog, if I was to ask you a percentage of how often do you hunt that dog right by themselves, how often do you mix it up, and then through the week, like, preparing a dog to win, you cutting them toward treed dogs or walking by them on the tree, or just some of the things you do during the week to prepare these dogs. I mean, I know they're natural, I know they're born with it, but how do you keep them tuned up?
About the only person I really hunt with through the week, a buddy of mine here in the last, Lance Kaiser, he lives about 20 minutes from me. I'd say me and him hunt together 6 nights a week, but we just kind of hunt. I mean, we just turn them loose, and he normally hunts a dog and I'll hunt one, and occasionally I'll cut 2 dogs loose together in certain spots where I can get around to them. My country, it's kind of hard. Everybody thinks, oh, you're in Indiana, you're in flat patch woods, which we have a lot of coons, but over here on this state land that I hunt, it's pretty rough, and it's a lot of hill country, and wherever you turn loose, that's normally where you got to walk and go get them. So there's a lot of walking involved, but I'll just be honest with you. I don't really train a certain way. I just hunt them. If a situation comes up, I try to fix it. But for the most part, I don't have to work on mine much for being around dogs. That's one of their strongest deals. The pups off of Big Money that I've had is they're just natural loners. We'll do some hunting, sometimes turn his one way and mine the other on opposite sides of the road. But for the most part, we just hunt them. I used to do a lot more training than what I done, and I felt like I hindered the dogs more than I helped them. When I got to a hunt, certain situations would come up, and they'd be overtrained and kind of spaz out on you a little bit and be too far out of pocket next time you seen them. And so I kind of, in the last 5 or 6 years here, I've kind of slacked off on the being so rough and physical training on them. I just kind of let them be themselves, and I believe I've had more success since I've kind of backed off just a hair. Guy gets to, so I think sometimes you can train too hard and overthink things as a handler and forget that the dog's a dog and not a machine. And that's probably one of the biggest things that I've learned over the years is just to be more relaxed on them and let them kind of be themselves. And you still got to do certain things, but not as extreme that I used to do it.
Yeah, that's some great advice. That really is. So, kind of going back to Big Money, what made him such a winner?
His strongest part is he was a natural loner, and he done everything so fast. He could tree a lot of layup coons sitting around you. He could get in a pocket of coons and tree coons, or he could be a mile in just minutes and tree a coon. I believe it was a Super Stakes. I drawed Eddie, and Eddie was hunting a full litter mate sister to him, and she had me beat going to the next spot, and I had to have I had a tree a coon and Eddie not the tree a coon. I turned him loose with just a few minutes left, and it wasn't no time. He was sitting in there across 2 roads, and I got him treed in, went in there and had a coon. I about killed Eddie that night walking to him, but I know that he had it in him, and we moved spots, and I had him turn loose, and he done what he was supposed to do, just fly in there and tree a coon.
I remember that well. That dude went about a day and a half, and it seemed like 2.5 minutes he was in there, and you struck and treat him, and I'm thinking, boy, this ain't good. We get in there, and I can remember the tree now. We had looked at it. You're there too. You correct me if I'm wrong. I bet we had looked at that tree 7 minutes, and I said, well, here's a CW. What about 30 seconds to go? You found that coon, and it was outstanding fine, and you deserved it and earned it, and hey, you went on. But he walked us pretty good that night. I've seen them treat coons close, but I think when they know I'm on the cast, they do that get in yonder deep and tree them coons.
Yep, you're exactly right, Eddie.
So, and then going back to being a dead loner and all, and you were talking about how it's natural and the big money dogs. Is that one of the most important traits that you believe Big Money's imprinted on his offspring?
I would say it's one of the biggest things. I mean, sometimes it's a little bit of a fault, but Big Money, when he was a pup, that was one of the biggest things I had to work on for a cast is if he wasn't settled in a tree good, when something come in there and covered him, he'd pick up and he'd move on. He'd just go tree another coon. And I spent a bunch of time with him just letting him know it was okay to be there with them dogs, and if a dog did cover him, to stay. But that was probably one of the biggest struggles that I had with him when I first got him, is he just wanted to be by himself so much. It was a little bit of a headache, and I just worked him and done some different things, and he come out of it. But he would still never stay with a rough dog. If a dog got rough with him, went to blowing around and pushing around, he would still leave. But I would say that's one of the reasons why it's such a big trait in his pups, is because it was so natural to him. I mean, it's what everybody wants, but it was almost a little bit of a fault to him. And that's kind of the deal with his pups, is why they're so natural, I believe, some of them.
I kind of have a question based off that. In your opinion, was it harder to get him to tree with other dogs than it would be on a dog that maybe needed some touching up for going and checking another dog out? Which one's harder, do you think, to correct?
I would say they're both pretty hard. Because a dog, if you go to correcting a dog that's going to other dogs, you create other issues, as far as just, scooting over a tree or two, or taking that track backwards and treeing on the den. You create some issues there. And with him, it was just kind of just getting him to stay and settle in. So it might have been a little bit easier, but it was still frustrating, because, you tree the coon and you're nervous the whole time. Well, can I tree him? Can I not tree him? And I'd say time he got about 2 years old, I could about tree him. If he looked up, I could tree him, no questions asked. He'd be there till I got there. But that was definitely a struggle that I had with him.
Yeah, I bet so. But that's a good problem to have, though.
You win by it and you die by it. Or, I mean, you win by it and you lose by it there. But it's won me a bunch, and it's hurt me some, because he's been too far. Instead of just getting 50 or a quarter on this coon rattle truck, him be blowed in there, a mile and a half, and never get to where you could hear him the whole cast. I lost one of the super stakes like that. All I got to do is get him treed in, and I can win. I don't ever get him treed in. Don't ever hear him for the whole 2 hours of the hunt. And was treed within 15, 20 minutes. He's treed, and I just don't ever get to where I could hear him. So, it's cost me some, but if I was going to lose, I'd rather lose like that than lose being around you and covering dogs.
Yeah, he was a hunting machine. I remember Benny Taylor coming in one night after judging him and watching him win. Benny said, Ed, that thing right there ain't got no backup in him. Said keeping up with him's the problem. But crossing dogs on him, was there certain lines of dogs that just really cross well with him?
I get asked that question a bunch, and it's hard for me to answer that for sure, because I've bred so many and I ain't got to really keep up with all of them. But the ones that I've had the most success with has probably been a little bit of Wipeout and Tequila Sunrise. And it might be a little bit more because I'm kind of just partial to that, because it's always worked for me. It worked good on Little Money, which that's what Little Money was off of. He was off of a Zeb Again bitch and Tequila Sunrise. Right.
Yeah.
He was off a Zeb again and a Tequila Sunrise female is what he was off of. And I made a couple crosses on bank like that here that are about right at a year old. And I'm really seeing some good things out of them that I like. So I'd
Wow.
have to say that that's some of the better stuff that I've had cross if I had to pick.
Well, I know that his pups have won $431,374, and he is in the top 20 reproducing sires in PKC history. What an accomplishment. I mean, when you start talking about that, that's impressive.
So, and you kind of brought up Little Money there, as far as you were saying, Little Money's out of a Zeb again female. So, tell me a little bit about Little Money and what it was like winning the ACHA World Hunt with him.
It wasn't as big a turnout as what you would think a World Hunt would be. I think there's about 50 dogs, I think, hunted down there that week, but he looked good. Is right here, not too far from the house, about 30 minutes from the house, and I hunted him the first night, and I didn't do no good. I done a little bit too much thinking. He was a dog that was going to be sitting through the country, quick, fast, and in a hurry. Don't matter where you cut him. And I took him to a little spot, and I hadn't really been treeing no coons there, but there was a big section sitting in behind it, and I thought, well, I'll go here. He'll look good. They'll get hung up in this little patch. And well, they treed like 6 coons in this little patch woods, and I didn't know there was 6 coons in that patch woods. And I'm sitting in there a mile out of pocket. Well, I withdraw and I go get him. The next night I draw about the same group of dogs, and I go to just a big country over here on the state land, and I treat 3 to their none. And then we stayed over the rest of the time, and I think every night. The next I had to hunt him one more round to get to the finals, and he treated 4 coons that round. And then we went to the finals, and I hunted another English female called Jam. I hunted her and got her qualified, and I let my uncle take her over, and he won another cast with her, and me and him both was in the finals there, and it was pretty much a shootout. I think he treated 3 coons, and another dog in the cast treated 3 coons, but he took a little bit of minus right there towards the end of the hunt, and it gave me kind of the victory with him. And that was one of the I won a pro hunt with him, but besides that pro hunt, that was the first thing that I actually won with him. Been in the finals of everything, but that was the first thing that I actually got first place in with him.
Well, that dude definitely done good too. But
yeah, Kevin. So kind of what I had was how does Little Money's style compare to Big Money?
Really, Little Money was just a freak of nature. I mean, you hear these guys talk about a hunting dog, and they do this, they do that, and old Joe, he's going to be in there just a second with a coon treat. And Little Money, just every time you cut him, he was treated somewhere every 15, 20 minutes. I don't care if I was in Indiana, I don't care if I was in Mississippi, where I was at. I mean, he was going somewhere and treating a coon just as fast as he could go. And that's kind of what separated him from anything I've ever hunted, is just the motion and the speed that he had. I mean, he was anywhere from 17 to 20 mile an hour on a Garmin, just 100 mile an hour. But that was some of his hold too, because he would get out of pocket, and he stayed hurt a bunch, because I mean, he constantly hurt himself just running stuff through him, and running through fences. I mean, he was just nuts. But when he treed, he had a coon. He stayed treed, kept him treed. That was his biggest strong point, was his ability. If I had 5 minutes left in the hunt and I had a tree coon, he was getting cut back loose, and he'd go tree a coon somewhere. Big Money, he would hunt. He hunted, but now I'd say his average speed was 7, 8 mile an hour on a Garmin. He had his head in the air looking for coons in trees. Where Little Money, he was looking, I called them fur balls. He was just looking for a fur ball on the ground to run up a bush and tree. So that was kind of their differences. When the going got tough, Big Money would probably tree a few more coons than him in the wintertime in pocket, where he used his nose a little bit more. Little Money, he'd be so far sometimes it almost be ridiculous, but he'd have a coon treed somewhere.
I think that the first time I ever heard about him, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you went and hunted with Stephen Miller down there at Starkville Refuge, and Stephen told me about a young dog you had, and I'm pretty sure that was him. It's been many a day ago. But
Yep, that was him. He was about 10 months old.
And Stephen Miller was bad impressed, and I'm pretty sure he wanted you to leave him down in Mississippi.
Yeah, before I ended up hunting him in the Winter Classics down there, and I won 3 casts. I got 1 Final 4 with him down there that week, and I had several people try to buy him that week. I turned down some pretty good money for him. Probably should have sold him, but he was the only thing I had at the time. But my partner Larry with him at the time, he didn't really like to sell, so he got to come home back with me. But if it had probably been up to me, he'd have probably been sold down there for the money we got offered at the age that he was.
Sure. Stephen told me about that, hunting with him there a couple times. And my buddy Stephen knows what a dog is, and he's a good dog man, but he kept going back to him pretty regular about what he saw.
Yep, he was definitely impressive.
And Little Money, now that was Big Money's first litter, correct?
Yes.
Did that whole litter turn out? Did you keep up with any of them besides Little Money?
Now, I kept up with a bunch of them. I'll be honest with you. There's one more dog that Doug Blackwell had. She started treating coons at a young age, treated a lot of coons, and she sold for some pretty good money at a young age. But she was just as good at 5 and 6 months old as she was probably to today. I don't know where she's at now, but she's been bred several times, but she just never really got no better. Was a stomp down coon treer and was impressive for her age. But Little Money was kind of the freak of the nature of that litter. Now, them females, there were several of them females that was bred, and their pups had won the Super Stakes, and they've done some winning. But now, as far as their ability of their self, they wasn't real great. Some of them would treat coons, but they wasn't nothing to write home about.
And do you feel like that's because of the opportunity, or do you just feel like that was just pure ability? Conkeys Outdoors knows that keeping up with the latest in hunting technology can be expensive. That's why they are proud to offer amazing financing options, from 30 days same as cash to 0% interest for 6, 9, 12, and even 18 months, depending on your credit score and the amount you spend. If you've been eyeballing that new thermal or want to upgrade to the latest in tracking system technology, go find out more on the web at conkeys.outdoors.com, or if you're in the Hastings, Florida area, stop by and visit. They'd love to have you. Conkeys Outdoors, houndsman helping houndsman.
No, I mean, I know I kind of gave a few of them to some guys that I know did hunt them, and they got hunted, and they got the chance. Several of them did, and I even went back and bought some of them that didn't have the best chance and gave them the chance, and they just really didn't. They just didn't make it. They had a lot of run in them. They didn't really want to get treed. I always kind of laughed, said they took after the wipeout dogs. They just done a lot of running and just couldn't get them to park.
You needed that old wipeout chair, huh?
Yeah.
Kevin, let me ask you this. Like, if you got a young dog and you were spending time with it, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, what's your goal on the amount of time it takes you, or you will allow a dog to show you what he can do?
I'm pretty short. I'm probably shorter than what most people are, and I've sold some dogs that I've got aggravated with, and know that they was decent, and other people could get more out of them because they had more patience. But I'd say if I have them here and I've had them for a while and they're running and treating coons, they got about 2 weeks to a month, and if they don't show me something pretty quick, they're out of here. And if they did, and they could show me a lot of good stuff, and if they show me one thing that I really don't like, I get rid of them. I just know what it takes for me to suit me, and if it ain't gonna suit me, I just get rid of it. And I've sold a bunch of dogs that's went and done a bunch of winning after I've sold them, just because of that, because they done something that aggravated me. And the lifestyle I live, I try to stay as least aggravated as possible. And a dog and a woman's 2 things that can aggravate you the most. So
I understand.
My wife, me and her, we don't argue and we'll bicker and fight around a little bit, but we don't aggravate each other, and I sure ain't gonna have a dog aggravate me.
You got that right.
So,
well, let me ask you this: just like your dogs I've hunted with, I've never, and I pay attention and stuff. if you get a dog that runs a tree, or if you get a dog that gnaws, are you going to spend any time trying to mess with that? And what would you do in that process, and how long would you spend?
If it's a young dog and it's, you know, just starting to tree coons quite regular, they got bad tree habits. That's one of my biggest pet peeves, is the way a dog trees. I work on them pretty hard. I'll work on them a little bit with, you know, just correction around the tree and making them sit in one spot in tree. And maybe even if they're real bad, I'll use a little bit of a, you know, shock collar, just lightly bump them to keep them calmed down. But I think that's something, if you don't hit it at a young age, right when they first start doing it, I don't think you can fix it. I think you can put a Band-Aid on it for a night or two, but you can't fix it. The pups that I work with, I always tie them as soon as I walk in. I don't shine the tree. I don't squall. First thing I do is walk in. I tie them short so they can just put their front feet on the tree, and I don't let them do no jacking and chewing. I think a lot of that is man-made. People just kind of, they're more worried about taking a video and a picture, and whatnot. I take more videos and pictures than anybody, but I make sure that dog's tied and don't let them create no bad habits before I go doing what I need to do.
And like, speaking of bad habits, going back to trees and stuff, do you just lead them pretty close and recut them? What's the best way to stop one from picking up a habit like that?
I'm a firm believer in practice. How every time I turn a dog loose, I do it like I'm in a hunt. I turn them all loose together. I don't turn one dog loose before the other dog. Turn them all loose side by side if I'm hunting with somebody. If I get there, I tie them. If I pull them off a tree, I try to walk close to a minute. I don't start a watch every time, but I roughly walk a decent ways off the tree and recut them. And if they do have a problem, if I cut a dog straight ahead, that's the way I like a dog to go. If a dog goes to left or right, I'm pretty quick about correcting them. I'll have my shot collar ready, and if they go left or right, I'll bump them and get them going the way that I sent them. And just the repetition, keep doing that over and over, and they seem to catch on pretty quick, and they get to where they ain't wanting to whip and go back behind you, wanting to go check that same tree out.
That's where that heart and desire comes in handy, because if you're running a dog that hadn't got the go and hadn't got the heart, first of all, you're not going to have him. But I think you can train on a dog that's got the heart and desire like you do. But one that doesn't, that's probably a big mistake.
Yeah, if a dog can't take correction, and like I said, I've calmed down a lot more than what I used to be when I was younger, but I'm still pretty hard on a dog. I don't tolerate much nonsense, and try to get them to the best of their ability and just kind of keep them there.
Kind of one last question on Little Money I have is, how do you think he's stacking up as a reproducer versus Big Money?
His pups really ain't old enough to really sit here and, be 100%, which it's just my opinion. But some of the things that I've seen off of him that's different than Big Money is his pups has got a lot bigger mouths than what Big Money pups have. Some of them's got what I would call the wow factor mouth. I mean, it makes you kind of stop, and that just come out like dog. They're a little bit smaller. Some of them, the Little Money pups, are a little bit smaller than the Big Money pups. I like a hound. I like a dog to be a good size, good conformation, good looks. A lot of people don't worry about that probably as much as what I do, but I look at it more than I do anything. And if it don't have a good conformation to it, it's not going to hold up the night in and night out hunting. So I try to, when I pick a pup, I try to pick the best built pup. Not mostly the looks of them, but I like a better built pup. I got two out here now off of Little Money. They're built good. I like him as good as anything I've had, but I'm going to say he's going to reproduce good, but I can't say that he's going to reproduce better than what Big Money has yet. Now he might, but I'd have to see it to believe it.
Boy, I tell you what, they've done mighty well. Kevin, moving on to the bank. Boy, I've had the opportunity to hunt with him, and I really liked him, and it was a blessing to be on the final cast with you and watch you win that hunt, you and old Bank. And we're going to let you tell the story because it's your story to tell. But I was blessed to be on the cast and watch it. And you want to tell us a little bit about the final cast?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a rainy night. It was we drove over and hunted some state land over there, not too far, about 30 minutes from the club, and we turned loose, and the two dogs, they left barking, and I never heard Bank for a pretty good while. And he finally opened up way left-handed for everything else, and I struck him, got him treed in there, and we got about to him, and I believe it was Marv. Marv kind of come in there around him and got split treed from him, and went in there, and Bank had a coon, and Marv had a coon, and then we had a walk. I won't say we probably walked a mile and a half. The Frank, he was treed over, and he had a coon. Well, he had 200 on his coon, and I was sitting at 150, and we called timeout and didn't have a lot of time left in the cast. I can't remember exact, but it was down
16 minutes and 32 seconds, best of my knowledge.
Yep, you're probably right.
I am.
Which I was probably sitting in the best place I could be sitting. I was in last, and it was either go big or go home. It was a one lifetime opportunity to get to where I was. So we turned loose there, and of course their dogs left barking, and Bank got down in the ditch, and he got struck pretty quick too. He was probably struck within 15, 20 seconds there. And I hauled off and struck him, and everybody else kind of sat back after I struck, and they didn't strike, and Bank went down the ditch, and he went headed right-handed out across I believe it was just a growed up field. He was kind of trailing out through there, and they all struck in, and Marv gets treed down in front of us first, and he treed Marv, and I treed Bank, and then he treed the other dog in there, Frank, on deeper. Went to Marv. Marv had a coon. That put him in the lead, and we went to Bank. Bank had a coon. So that put me leading, and as long as Frank didn't have a coon, I won.
Let me say something right there, if you don't mind. I know it's your story, but when we turned loose there with that 16 minutes to go, I told my little buddy Landon, I said, I know it takes 6 casts in a row to win a world championship, but I think the most important bark Bank ever made in a competition hunt was when we turned him loose. And just like you said, he wasn't far, and he was smelling a coon, and you struck him. I'm satisfied you had in your mind, if he barked, you was going to call him, because when you got him struck, I think that was the winning of the call of the world championship for me, because that was so impressive, because you done thought that out, like I'm sure everybody there, but that was awesome. That was the call of the week, I think.
I'd say you're exactly right. I know how I had a strike for 100 and tree coon, and I couldn't be beat by one of the dogs. Frank could still beat me, but me and him would have been tied if he'd have struck for 50 and we'd have went sudden death. But I know pulling up to that woods that I need to be struck for 100. And most of my dogs, when they open, you can pretty much strike them. They're running the coon. They really don't loose bark much, and they're more of a lower end strike dog than what most people hunt. I normally get struck for 50 and a quarter a bunch, but he treed there, or got struck, and went across that field, and I treated him. He had a coon. We went to Frank, and Frank was on a big pine tree, and we never did find it, and that's what sealed the deal for me, and I ended up winning the world.
That's what I told Tyler a while ago. I said, I knew that had to be a walk across there, and I'm going to ask you about that walk. But when we got there to that tree, I remembered it was real thick, real bushy. Could have been 5 coons up there, and you passed by me and said, Ed, if you don't mind, hold old Bank. I told Tyler when that 8 minutes started, I was holding Bank, a dog that some people had heard about. I said when that 8 minutes was over, I was holding the world champion. And I mean, that was impressive to me. But on that walk over there, Kevin, and what was going through your mind in that 8 minutes of shine time? If you could just kind of tell us, for people that's never had the opportunity to be in a situation like that.
On when we was shining Frank's tree?
On the walk to Frank's tree, what was it kind of like? And then once the 8 started, what was it kind of like?
I normally don't get nervous too much. I used to bad, but it kind of got to cost me. You let your nerves get to running, you get to doing things you shouldn't do, you just thinking too much. But that was probably the most nervous I've been on a cast. That last 10 minutes or whatever, walking over to that tree and shining that tree, which it was just a couple hundred yards across another field. But, you kind of get to thinking, well, I hope he ain't got a coon. And then you get to thinking, well, don't think that, it is what it is. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But when we shined that, when I seen the tree he was on, I felt pretty confident, because he was on a pine tree, a great big pine thicket right there on that state land. And I kind of looked it over pretty good with my heat gun, and I didn't see no heat. And I kind of felt I was relieved after about the first 3 minutes once I shined the tree, because I felt pretty confident that he wasn't going to find it, because I hadn't found nothing yet. And Lane kind of told me that the dog been missing a little bit, and he said he just dropped the ball. Is kind of what Lane told me, and I kind of felt good when he kind of said that. But it was definitely nerve-wracking there, walking to that tree until I seen it. You got a lot of things going through your head, and that's a big accomplishment that every coon hunter's dream is either to win the UKC World or the PKC World. And I was lucky enough to do it at a young age there, and with a dog that I owned and bred right here at the house, and it was definitely a good feeling.
And something else that always impresses me about the PKC World hunts I've had the opportunity to be on, just like yours, when the whistle blowed and the World Championship was over, every one of those guys come to you, shook your hand, congratulated you 100%, and they meant it. They knew the journey you had been on, and they knew how tough it was. And there's something about this PKC family. I'm telling you, there is. Just tell me what you think about that.
Oh, definitely the coon hunting community. We'll all bicker back and forth, and but when the going gets tough and somebody needs help, there's definitely everybody pitches in. I've done a bunch of fundraisers for different people and raised money for youth events, and everybody's there to pitch in. But we all know the struggle that it goes to keep a dog right and keep a dog healthy, and fight through 6 rounds. And every year at the World Hunt, one of the nights it's going to monsoon, it's going to rain, it's going to be hard to hear, and you're going to be wet and cold. We all know what it's like to be out there, and it's definitely we know what the other person's been through, and we've all been through rough times. And the coon hunting community definitely pitches in and helps out when it counts the most, I guess you could say.
Absolutely. That PKC family is something. I got a couple more quick questions for you before we move on. The first person you called when that cast was over, first couple people you called, how was that? I know they had to be important to you for you to call them. How did that go?
I called my wife. That was a pretty good feeling. They was back at the fairgrounds in the camper we rented. That was a good feeling, her and my son being there. And then the next person I called was my dad. Kind of talked to him there for a minute. And then I called my partner at the time with bank and big money and little money, Larry. Called him there. It was definitely all a good feeling.
So I kind of have a question, and this has kind of been a question that's been asked a couple of times to different people. Are the $100,000 hunts taken away from the prestige of the World Hunt? And you do this for a living, so your idea might be a little different. But would you rather win the World Hunt than the $100,000 Jarvis Umford Memorial Hunt?
Well, I believe people get caught up in the money too much. I would rather win the private World Hunt. I mean, it's a good feeling. Yeah, it'd be nice to win 100,000 when the World Hunt only pays 30. I honestly believe that PKC's kind of dropped the ball here a little bit. They've got a little bit of money hungry in my eyes. They're having way too many hunts. It's took the prestige completely out of everything. Next week you don't know who won what. And that's kind of, in my business, where I got a stud dog and different things. The prestige is what helps people come to me to breed to my dogs and do things like that. If you don't have prestige, you don't have nothing, in my opinion. And, and I do it for a living. I mean, I can't, if I ain't making money, I ain't, I can't provide for my family. But you definitely have to have the prestige in it. And I think eventually it's all starting to catch up. I think they're going to have to slow down, start having less hunts, and have more quality hunts when they have the hunts, only have so many big hunts a year. So there is some prestige behind it. Because in my opinion, as of right now, there is no prestige in it. They're just it's just for the money. Everybody's going for the money, and that's the only thing they're worried about. But that's just my opinion.
Oh yeah, everybody gets an opinion. Changing hats on you there a little bit. If all of a sudden you wake up and you're the rule man for PKC, you can make any rule you want, you can add any rule you want, or take out any rule you want without calling anybody or voting. What is one or two rules you would change, Kevin?
I'd probably go back about 6 years ago, Eddie. I'd get a rule book that was 6 years old, and I'd go with it. I'd quit changing everything. You're not ever going to make nobody happy. It's worked for years. My biggest thing is quit changing it. Everybody wants this no leash lock, and they're all talking about the hunter strike dogs. You can't beat them if you're on the leash. I've hunted that 280 some thousand you're talking about. I've won all that by packing quarter strike dogs, quarter and 50 strike dogs. That's not true. I mean, a lot of these people that's wanting to change the rules, they're not out here every weekend hunting, and I think they change them for the wrong reasons. They got a dog that suits this deal better than others, and they change it this week and then want to change it back, and you're not ever going to make anybody happy. So I'd go back to about 6 or 7 years ago and pick an old rule book up, and that'd be the rules, and I wouldn't ever change them.
Boy, Kevin, I'm telling you, that's for me now. Everybody got an idea, but that's about as good an idea as I've heard about that. I like that idea. I got another question for you. Is just like the Jarvis Humpers Memorial Hunt me and you was at, and several other people, who would have ever thought in one weekend in our sport that it could be a prize of $467,000 in one weekend at a coon hunt? And where do you think we're going? I mean, that was just awesome. Jarvis Humpers had the vision. You remember well, like me and you laugh sometimes. You wasn't born then, but you pretty well could get a picture, and a picture taken may get in the book, may not. You get a little bitty trophy, and then Jarvis came along. So what do you think about that?
I mean, I think the bigger money hunts is definitely good for the sport. And like I said, I'd love to win 100,000, and I got in the top 16 out there, and I enjoyed myself, and it was a good run hunt. But I honestly think that they should have just had one event. I think there should have been one 64 dog hunt, and whoever won that 100,000, it'd have been something. And I'm not a firm believer of being able to split these events. I believe in a major hunt like that, hunting for $100,000. I believe there should be a winner. You hunt it off, which I understand it's a lot of money. It's a lot of life-changing money, and people say, well, when you get in it, you wish you'd had a vote for it. And like I said, I made it to the top 16. I wasn't in the finals, but if I ever get in the finals or something like that, it won't be split. I don't care if my dog's on 3 legs or got a broken leg. I'm hunting it. I just think that's the only way that you can get prestige as a winner. And I just feel that that's what's kind of hurt the sport a little bit, is they have so many of these hunts and everybody's splitting, and there's not a winner. I mean, there's 4 winners, and in my opinion, there shouldn't be 4 winners. There should be a first, second, third, and fourth. When you leave there, you hang your head high if you win, and you got a few bragging rights and make on the front cover of the book. If you split something like that, I don't believe that you should be on the front cover of the book. I mean, you didn't win, you split. I mean, that's just my thoughts on it, and that's one of the biggest things I think where UKC's kind of starting to take over is, they hunt their hunts, and there's a winner. They get a lot of advertisement out there, and you get more prestige. You're not hunting for nearly the money that they're hunting for over there, but when you win something over there, people talk about it for 6 months, a year. They know that you won it.
Yeah, for sure. And so we'll kind of move along here to talking more about bank. Well, no, let me ask you this first before we do. So how did winning the PKC World Hunt stack up against winning the Youth World Hunt when you were a kid?
I'd say that was kind of the same feeling, because that was the first major thing that I won. then I remember when I was a kid, it was down in Aurora, Kentucky. That was the same weekend as the PKC World Hunt. Everybody come in that year. There was still a bunch of people there. And, when I walked in the building with my dog, everybody was clapping and hooting and hollering. I think I was 13 or 14 years old. Might even been a little bit younger than that, but it was just a good feeling. Everybody standing up, clapping and hooting and hollering. And, I had to win. I had to win forecast to win that. It's a pretty good accomplishment. Something that I always wanted to do, and I made the front cover of the magazine with me and my dad. Something that you never thought you would do as a kid. Looking at a pro hound, hey, I want to be on the front cover one day, and then here I am, just a kid, on the front cover with the world champion. I believe it was Dave Fleming with Wipeout Spec that year won the world hunt, and then I was down below him with my dog winning the youth world. It was a pretty good feeling.
I mean, because you only get a certain amount of years to be able to hunt in that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that was the first year I ever hunted in it. I won my hunt. I become a PKC member and won my $100 that year, and my dad and mom and my uncle, my brother and cousin hunted in it down there, and we all went down as a family and rented a cabin and kind of made a little vacation of it down there. And I ended up walking away with the win, and it was a pretty good feeling that all my family was there and done it at a young age.
Yeah, for sure. So, and Mr. Eddie's kind of talked about Bank. Me and him have off air, but he was telling me, how Bank style's a little different than Big Money and Little Money. And so just tell me how you came about owning Bank, and then tell me, is it true if his style really is different from Big Money and Little Money? Which I'm not saying Mr. Eddie's a liar. I know it's different. But
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Bank's definitely a different style from them too. He's more of what I would call a trailing type of dog. He would work tracks up and tree them and have them. His strongest point is he had about every coon he treed. A lot of people talk about, this dog's made 50, 60 trees in a row, had coons. It's hard for me to believe, which I've hunted him a bunch and recutting him, hunting in the same spot. But right there, when I won the world hunt, right before the world hunt, I pulled that dog off of right at 36 trees, and he had 35 straight coons in a row. That was in cast and everything before he made a tree, and it was a den tree. It got circled, but that was the first tree I pulled him off of that he didn't have a coon in that got plussed. And I think I won about $70-some thousand right there in 30-some days of running hunts. But won the world. I won 10,000 right before the world in a pro classic. Won the world hunt. Come home a couple weeks later. We had a $4,000 pro classic here at the house, and I won all 3 nights of it. I believe he's the only dog that's ever done that too. So he won another additional 6 casts in a row and won another $30,000. Lease off, wintertime, snow on the ground, treeing coons. So I would definitely say he's a different style. Because my other dogs didn't trail none. He would go hunting as far as it took him to tree a coon, and he would tree multiple coons if coons was on the ground moving. But he'd kind of beat and bang around and tree coons and have them. People think, there ain't no way that dog's got a coon. He's trailed over for 30 minutes. You go over and he's got a coon curled up in the first fork asleep.
Well, let me ask you this, Kevin. The first time you just take us through a little bit. I like to hear stories like this. First time you heard of Bank, and then maybe the first time you saw Bank, and then the first time you knew you wanted Bank.
Well, I bought him from Bradley Kelly up in Indiana. They come down and went hunting. Bank didn't look real good that night, and Bradley just kept on me, wanting me to buy him, and I hauled off and bought him. Brought him home here, and I hunted him. And I seen what Bradley was talking about. I mean, he was a coon treer. He kind of didn't range out as far as I wanted him to range out. He kind of had a handle on him. He didn't want him leaving the country. I took the shock collar off of him, and I went over here about an hour from my house and hunting in some patch woods, and I'd make him leave in patches and go to other patches, just loosened him back up. He was a natural coon treer. He had a bad problem of going back to trees. I had to work on him pretty good for that. But as far as the dog's natural coon treeing ability and a lot of the talent that he had, Bradley done all that. I'd have to give Bradley all the credit for that. I just kind of tuned him up, knocked the edges off of him, and broke him from going back to trees, and I went right to winning with him. He didn't suit me as far as, because I like a dog wild and crazy, but the dog produced so many coons. Me as a handler, I thought, man, there ain't no way this dog can't win. Me and Doug Blackwell, we kind of laughed. We just called him a country coon dog. He just kind of trailed around, treed coons. He's wasn't nothing flashy, nothing fancy. He's a good, steady tree dog, but when you got to him, he had coons, and that's what made the dog win. He treated a lot of coons that other dogs didn't know was there, and took his time and stayed out of trouble.
Well, let me ask you this, because I would say people that's listening to this right now, a lot of youngsters, when you said you had to break him going back to trees, if you don't mind, let's help some people right here. What did you have to do, and how did you do it, and and I know every dog's different, but give us a little bit of insight right there, Kevin.
Which the dog was kind of messed up with a shocker, so I couldn't shock on him none for going back to trees. I had to do everything kind of leg action. I had to go back to old school. Me and Dual Murphy hunted a bunch together at the time. He lives about 2 hours from me, and I'd let him walk him out through there. He'd walk him up there, about a minute, and he'd cut him loose. And when he come back, I'd wear him out, got him going. And then he kind of got to where we'd hunt the same spot up there at Duels. That's a bunch of state land, and we'll stay in one woods for 4 or 5 hours. It's got a bunch of roads to it. We just keep cutting, and he would eventually end up an hour later. He'd end up on a tree done and made. So then I done had him far enough along. I put a collar back on him, and I'd mark the trees on my Garmin. If he'd go back to him, I'd bump him off them trees. And he finally got a hang of it. It probably took me 3 or 4 months to get him completely over it, but once I got him over that, he was fine. But it was definitely aggravating there for a little while.
It was sure worth the effort, though. I'll tell you that.
Yes, it was.
And everybody likes a different type dog, but I'm a fan of Old Bank. I like that kind of dog, and y'all did well with him. Kevin, I want to ask you a hypothetical question. It's not even on our list, but I'd like to know if you, from your time in coon hunting, dogs you've heard about, dogs you've drawed, stuff like that. If I said, Kevin, what 4 dogs in the prime of their life, and I know this may take you a while to think of this, but what 4 dogs in the prime of their life, you're not competing against them, but would you like to watch work that you've read about, you've heard about, or you've seen?
Probably one of the ones which I hunted with him a bunch. Probably one of my all-time favorites was Big D. I just liked his demeanor. I liked his looks. I liked his mouth. He was a touch wild. I hunted with him several times. I really liked him. He's probably one of my all-time favorite dogs. Of course, I'd have to say Little Money. Little Money he's probably one of my all-time favorite dogs that I've liked. He'd have to be in my top 5. I really like Clayton. I hunted with Clayton some. I really liked him. And the Slim Willie dog that Joe Gross owned there for a while. I think Wipeout Slim Willie, I believe is what they called him. I really liked him. He was tight on the ground and be sitting through that country in short order and having coons treed.
So, and kind of getting back to Bank, was it a tough transition for you as a handler to go from a dog like Big Money or Little Money to a dog like Bank that's going to treat a lot of coons behind dogs?
Not really. I mean, because it goes back to kind of what James always told me at first, that, just strike and tree your dog. Now, and it did take me a little bit for, like, far as pleasure hunting. I'd kind of want to get in there and kind of run him out of some spots that I felt that he's spending too much time in there. Should have done had a coon treed. But then you go to hunting other dogs, and they wasn't producing coons at the time neither. So I just left him alone. That's one of the deals where I was telling you there. I've kind of learned over the years wanting too much out of a dog. So I kind of just left him be there, and that's what made it. If I'd have had him when I was younger, I probably would have ruined him. But where I was older and done some different things with dogs, and it wasn't successful, I just left him be his natural self, and I'm glad that I did, because it put me in a winner's circle, and it put a bunch of money in my pocket.
And how much slower I mean, and it's not a bad thing hunting slower, but I mean, how much slower did he hunt than like Little Money and Big Money? I know you said they were like, or Little Money was a freak when it came to that. Big Money was around 9 miles an hour on a Garmin.
With Bank, the biggest thing with him would depend on the night. If Coons was on the ground moving, he moved as good as Big Money did. He's 9-10 mile an hour on the Garmin. But, on a bad night where Coons wasn't moving and, hitting old feeder tracks, I'd say he was an average of 4 to 5 mile an hour on a Garmin. But, he's running tracks and training them and not just flying through the country.
Did you ever see Big Money break a track down like you're talking about Bank doing and really work it out?
No. He tried it a little bit here and there, but nothing, didn't make no habit of it. I would definitely say Bank gets more of his trailing traits from his mom. Mark McCorder owned the Tramp female, and he's owned that whole line of dogs his whole life, and that's kind of the way they are. I mean, they're trailing type of dogs that trees Coons and highly accurate. I mean, they're good dogs, but they're more what I would call an older timey Coon dog, and he's more of a Mark's a pleasure hunter, a good friend of mine, and he brought her here and bred her, and Bank was the only one in that litter that was that color, that dark color. So I would have to say, most of his traits probably come from his mother's side, as far as the way that he trails Coons and trees them.
Yeah, and for the people that are listening that haven't seen the huge difference between Bank and Little Money and Big Money, you can just go to the Big Money Facebook page and you can see the difference. I mean, it's night and day.
Yeah.
The color, I mean, just everything's different. And Bank's a good looking sucker too. I like that dark color and everything. And we were talking about Bank's mama and the color, or his name and the color and all. And I looked at Bank's pedigree on the bottom side, and in three generations, there's no dog that I recognize, and that's kind of weird to me.
Yeah, his like I said, Mark owned him. He's more of a UKC hunter. He puts titles on all of them, but all of them dogs was from about an hour from here, over in Shelbyville, Indiana. All them guys over there, that's all their kind of line of dogs, just backyard breeding. And that's another thing, people call me, you think this will work, you think that'll work. And I probably shock a bunch of people, because I tell them, boys, breeding is like playing poker. You don't know what you're going to get dealt. I mean, you could have the same litter and have different traits out of, 3 or 4 different pups, and that cross can be completely, totally different. And you just don't know what you're going to get. And this was one of them deals where a lot of people thought, well, that might not work. And, it wasn't one of your crosses that people's going to give $1,000, $1,500 for, because there ain't no big name dogs in that litter. And, that right there goes to show you that don't mean nothing.
You said you hunted with his mama, but was there any other ones on the bottom you had hunted with?
No, I hadn't hunted with them, which, I've heard stories of all of them, how they treat Coons, and done a bunch of different stuff. I've known them guys since I've been kids, and I've been around them dogs, but I was a lot younger and didn't really hunt with them, you know what I mean? But I've hunted with his mom several times, and she's a Coon treer and likes to be by herself, but she's an all around, good dog, good pleasure dog to hunt, and peaceful. And that's the way they described the other ones to me too. But I didn't I've seen them in person, which the dogs was older, but I never hunted with them.
Do you like a dog like Bank more than a dog like Big Money now, as you getting older in age, or as you've seen more?
No, I still like that wild and crazy. I like a dog that can tree Coons. The Charm female that I've been hunting, she can tree any kind of Coon. She can tree layups, and she can be blowed in there a mile and tree Coons. I like a dog like that. They're fast and flashy, and if I had a pick, no. I mean, that's what I like. It's probably what I like till the day I die. But if I got another Bank that come in here and showed me that he was one of the ones, like Eddie was talking about, how long do you give him before you get rid of him? He was a dog here at the house. He never aggravated me. You never knowed he was here. Put him in the truck. He wasn't aggravating hunting him. That was probably one of the biggest reasons he stayed here as long as he did, because he wasn't aggravating. And when I went to him, he had Coons. So that's what made him stay around here. The longer I hunted him, the more I seen his ability to tree Coons when other dog wasn't treeing Coons. But if he'd have been aggravating, he'd have been gone quick, and I would have never known exactly what he was. But That's probably what's his biggest savior is as calm and as level headed as he was is one of the main reasons why he stayed here.
Yeah, kind of out of sight, out of mind, huh?
Yep. And like I said, I enjoyed hunting him. He treated a lot of coons, and and I went straight to winning with him. And some dogs just have winning ways. They know what they got to do to win, when they got to do it, and it's almost like Bank had a scorecard in his head. I kind of always laugh because he never blowed a cast out of the water, but when the smoke cleared, tree me in here at the end of the hunt. If I got a coon, I win. About every cast I've ever won with that dog come down to the last tree. I got this coon, I win. I mean, just go ahead and write me a check. All I got to do is go in here and find it. That was his strong point. He knew what he had to do when he had to do it.
And we've talked about with just us sitting around that it's amazing sometimes you'll see a good dog, but there's only one small problem. That dude's not a winner. Tree coons right and left and just impress everybody they go with, but they're not a winner. What is the answer to that?
People tell me all the time I'm crazy when I say this, and you guys will probably think I am too. And like I said, Little Money's one of my all-time favorite dogs, but he was a dog that couldn't seal the deal. He could get you to the top 6. I've been in the top 6 of the Nationals, Super Stakes, got him high up in the World Hunt. He could not seal the deal. When the going got tough, he'd be out of pocket, or he'd tree in the ground, or down at the truck hunt. He looked absolutely unbelievable at the truck hunt. Final cast, he ain't never run a hog in his life. Runs a hog for 30 minutes, and then comes back and trees 2 coons, just bam, bam. And I end up getting beat by a quarter by Major. It's just like he found a way just to kind of get me there and just kind of just hang me when I got to the finals. That was one of the biggest things that frustrated me with him a bunch is he was such a good dog, eat up with ability, but he just had just a hair too much crazy in him, and he couldn't hold it together for six rounds.
Well, let me ask you this, and this is kind of going back to the same question, but if somebody said, okay, what is the main difference between a competition hound and a pleasure hound? And part of that answer we know is got to have that coon. But if somebody asked you, Kevin, what is the difference between a competition hound and a pleasure hound, what would be your answer?
I would say the only difference is if it's what we call a true pleasure dog, goes hunting, trees coons, keeps coons treed. I'd say the only difference is who owns it, how it was trained. Some people, they don't care if they pull off his tree and turn it loose and it goes to another dog. They don't care if it does that for just a pleasure hunter, or if he meets you off the tree a little bit. They don't care. My opinion, a true pleasure dog that trees coons, I think if it's handled the right way, I believe it could go win anything. And I believe Bank, if anybody's ever hunted with Bank, they would say he's a true pleasure to hunt. Trees coons as he comes to them, and I just kind of tweaked him there just a little bit when I first got him, and made him do a few little different things than what that boy wanted him to do, as far as being able to handle him and not leave woodses and stuff like that. So I really don't think there's a whole lot of a difference, Eddie, as long as the dog would get handled for the rules. I mean, because the rules that we make, for the hunts is the only difference.
That's a great answer. It really is. Because kind of the way you were talking, it seemed like Bank was the kind of dog that found a way to win, but Little Money was one that found a way to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Almost.
And he done a bunch of winning, and I mean, when he won, it was flashy. I mean, it was mind blowing. I'd tree 4 or 5 coons that you're 1 or you're 2, and you just think there ain't no way that dog could get beat. And then I'd get there to the finals and turn him loose, and he'd be out of pocket, just be gone. And Bank, I always had him. He was always treating here, and he was always had a coon when I got to him. Just the 6 never caught him. He just found a way. I mean, Bank was put in a quarter of the hunts. Bank was pushed for a year and won $100,000. Little Money was pushed for 5 years and won 55. I mean, and if you hunted them side by side, night in and night out, you would pick Little Money. but he just could not seal the deal when you got there. Where Bank did.
So are y'all offering Bank at stud now?
Yeah, he's a public stud. He has been probably for the last year. I hadn't qualified for the everything. I had truck tickets and stuff on him after I won the world, and I hunted him in a truck hunt and placed third with him. And then right after a truck hunt, I opened him up for public stud.
And you kind of touched on this earlier, but there's a couple pups off of them you've seen showing a little promise.
Yeah, there's one litter that's about a year old. Some of them are starting to show up, and then there's a litter that's 11 months old, and they're really starting to crank. Me and my buddies got one together that I really like, and then there's a female that's about 2 hours from here that's really starting to show up, and then there's several 7-8 month old pups out there that's starting to tree their first coons and really starting to tree cage coons and showing a lot of interest. Big, good-looking dogs with big mouths, and they're the feedback I'm getting. They got a lot of drive. They're not standing around your feet. They're hunting. A lot of the same feedback that I've got back from big money and little money pups, and which I think that kind of goes back to what I talked about earlier. Natural traits. I've been breeding natural ability into them. Natural dogs and natural dogs, so their pups are natural.
And I know they're still young, of course, but is the feedback you're getting that they are more of a trailing type dog?
No, I really couldn't. The ones that which I said there's only a handful of them.
Yeah.
But I couldn't say that for sure. The one I got now, that I own half of, he's not a trailer. He's a blow through the country, tree coons type of dog. The female, I believe, she'll trail some, but not a bunch. So I can't say that they're going to be or not, which I'd say there's going to be some because, he's a dominant reproducer of his color. So I would say that he's going to, be dominant and a good track dog too because of his looks.
Yeah, I saw a picture that you had posted, and it was I think it was Little Money and a puppy off Little Money and Bank and a puppy off of Bank, and that puppy off Bank looked just like him. Yeah,
he throws 3 or 4 pups in each litter that's, almost to a T to him, solid blanket back with brown legs and just a little bit of white on their feet and chest.
Is it important to you to hunt what you breed, Kevin? And did that kind of start with big money?
Yeah, and which I still hunt several different dogs off of different stuff, and there's good dogs in every breed, every color, but far as me, if they stay here, it's going to be something off of them because that seems to suit me the best. I've bought several dogs and re-hunted them up and resold them. That's doing some of the most winning out there right now. But I'm not colorblind. You know what I mean? If I see something good and I believe I can get it bought and work it a little bit, I'm going to hunt it up, and that's where I make a lot of my money at, reselling some of these dogs. The other professional hunters that's going to push them into hunts. Why I got my main dogs here at home that I'm hunting and I'm promoting.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it's cool to see that you're hunting what you breed.
And I get a lot of satisfaction out of it myself. Like what I was talking about earlier. The publicity that you get out of it. If I win something with somebody else's dog, I mean, yeah, it's great for me to win it, but it don't hit as home as much, because it's not something that I've put a lot of sweat and blood into to do myself. Because everybody can go buy a dog and win with it. If you got money, you can go get a dog and you can win. But very few people is bred, raised, and trained and won what I've won with my own dogs. I think that's one of my biggest accomplishments that I feel good of and about is that it's my line of dogs that I'm doing it with.
Well, does hunting your line of dogs help you as a handler as far as you've kind of seen,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I know what I can get by with them. My dogs are pretty hardy. They can take correction. They can take hard hunting. If I like a dog, I hunt it hard. If I don't like a dog, I ain't going to hunt it. So I've been bad in the past about hunting dogs too hard and they can't take it, of course they break down, which I've been lucky with my line of dogs. I can hunt them every night of the week and they look good, or I can not hunt them and they still look, fairly decent. But for the most part, my dogs, if I own them and they're off of my dogs, I can hunt them. And it seems like the harder I hunt them and kind of get that edge knocked off of them, the better they look. So that's something that I know with my line of dogs I can get away with, where other dogs you kind of got to tiptoe around them and make sure they're fresh and feeling good and stuff like that.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that is Wimp Aaron actually brought that up in the interview I did with him. He was saying how, line breeding those dogs or breeding those dogs and hunting the same line, he might see something that the grandma did and he knew how to correct that,
Yeah.
So he just went about the same way.
Yeah, that's something I ain't never did much of, line breeding and stuff like that. I've not did much of that. I've never been a big fan of that, because I've seen that go both ways. You get the good qualities and the bad qualities, and that's just something that I've not really did, which a lot of my dogs are still young, so I ain't had to do much of that, because there's so many young dogs still out there out of him that I ain't had to worry about trying to get back to what he was, is because I guess I'm still getting fruit off the same tree. I ain't going to his offspring yet.
Yeah, and that's true. And Mr. A, do you have anything before we move on to the family?
No,
about Bank or anything else?
But I'll just ask you a couple questions I'd like to know. Kevin, is it important to have a handle on a dog? I know you're young. As I get older, that handle becomes more important. Do you value a handle or not?
For the most part, I don't. Now, I do have a young dog here that's a 1-year-old spring, and I did put a handle on him. First dog I put a handle on in a long time. Just for the simple fact was that he crosses water bad. He's a bad swimmer. So I put a handle on him so I could get him back. But for the most part, I don't have a handle on him.
I got another question. If somebody said, Kevin, for fun in this sport, fun, raising pups, starting young dogs, what's the answer to that?
Just to enjoy yourself, or
with your dogs.
What I like.
Yeah. Do you like raising litters of puppies from little bitty ones, or do you like starting dogs, or what's your favorite?
I like kind of which my wife and son does the most part as far as raising a litter. And then when they get up to about 3 to 6 months old, I like messing with them, with cage coons and land drags, because it's something I can do in the daytime with my son. And I enjoy seeing him mess with them, and my wife enjoys doing it with us. And then that next step coming from treeing cage coons to going to the woods, if they ain't got a real big motor and just natural about blowing in there and going hunting, I struggle as a handler, as training a dog like that. So I sell a bunch of them at 6 and 7 months old that I just get aggravated with, that end up being good ones. And I've bought several of them back 2 or 3 months later once they kind of got them over that little deal there. But so I would say my best part is, messing with them with, cage coons and stuff like that at a young age would be my most enjoyable part.
And do you get some self-satisfaction out of that, raising that puppy raising that dog from a puppy and then raising it up and seeing it treating its own coon, knowing that it came from your line of dogs? I mean, how much self-gratification do you get from that?
Oh, I mean, it's a bunch, and I've had several dogs here, and I get, good satisfaction out of dogs that, that I've put several months into, and I've ended up selling for good money to other people that ain't out of my dogs. I enjoy seeing them win and succeed too, because it's, it's a lot of aggravation and, up and down the roads and sleepless nights and, training a dog and putting a lot of effort into. And even though I haven't had that dog in, several months or sometimes even a year, it's still, hey, I had that dog, if I wouldn't have got it, where would it have been, because there's a lot of important parts in a dog's life. If you don't, when they first start, if you really don't put a lot of effort into them, or if they pick up some of them bad tree habits that we was talking about earlier, I mean, that dog might be a great dog, but if somebody lets him jack and chew and you can't never fix that, he can't never win a hunt in some time.
Coon Hunting University is brought to you by Superior Light Company. Use coupon code CHU podcast at checkout at nighthunters.com. If you're in the market for a new light, do not overlook Superior. They make the best light in the business. The Hellcat Max Flat Dark Earth Edition is awesome. Comes standard with the new and improved high-intensity green laser. Comes standard with the newest design and dual walking light modules, offering the brightest walking lights currently available on the market, bar none. And it comes with your choice of red or true amber or double red color module technology. The Hellcat Max new module design reduces weight without sacrificing burn time or brightness, resulting in an overall weight of just 20 to 24 ounces, depending on your cap selection. The Hellcat Max offers the newest battery technology, which allows for 5 hours of continuous main beam burn time on the highest setting and over 10 hours of highest auxiliary light settings. All controls can be found on one easy 9-position click switch. And all Superior lights come with a 2-year warranty, are made right here in the USA. So check out Superior Lights. Use coupon code CHU podcast at checkout at nighthunters.com. Thank you to Mr. Jamie, Mr. Sam at Superior Lights for supporting Coon University Podcast and making this podcast possible. So I ask all the listeners, if you could, please go over there and support Superior Lights. Use the exclusive discount code that is only available to Coon University Podcast listeners, CHU Podcast. Superior, step up to the max. Now, back to the show.
So that's a lot. I've seen a lot of dogs was good, great dogs that wasn't handled right at a young age, and that's what stopped them from winning something great one day.
And you were kind of talking about how your wife and your son care for them till they're 3 or 6 months old. You know, do they spend a lot of time with them, messing with them, playing with them as puppies? And how much do you think that goes into them being successful later on?
Oh, it's you know, because once my wife and boy gets done messing with them, you know, their leash broke, and we haul them to town. They're over getting sick, and you know, we take them on walks, and they jump over creeks and learn how to cross fences before you ever take them to a wood. So, you know, you're out there, you got half the battle done with. You ain't dragging him around. He ain't barking, you know, on a creek because he don't want to cross it. They cross them, and I think that's where a lot of people kind of mess up. They keep a pup in the kennel until it's 6, 7 months old and pull it out and inspect results. Well, it ain't nothing but a kid. I mean, it don't have a clue what needs to be done, and it's scared of this and scared of that, and that makes a big difference. I believe that's one of the most important parts before they start treeing, is just to be handled and have sense when you mess with them.
Yeah, and you actually hit the nail on the head, because my next question was going to be, you know, people say that dog didn't make it, but that dog sat in a pen until it was 8 months old. You know, from 8 weeks old to 8 months old, never got messed with, had no maturity, you know.
Yeah, and it's, you know, like I've seen several pups, you know, that we mess with. You know, a lot of pups at 6 months old are still wanting to play, and they got a lot of puppy in them. Well, when you mess with them as much as what we mess with them, that a lot of that puppiness is out of them. They're done starting to become you know, they got their head on them, and they ain't as worried about running over and playing with the dog, because they're more worried about what I'm wanting it to do. They know what I done kind of expect out of it, as far as a leash, you know, walk on a leash and come to me when I call for you and things like that. And that one that's been in the pen for 6 months, it barks and carries on. You can't handle it. That makes a big difference with them.
Yeah. I completely agree. Let's move on to what it seems like is the most important part about your dog's training, because you just mentioned it right there, is your family, right? So
yeah.
Talk about your family, Kevin, and how are they involved in the hunting and the bench shows? I know we just talked about they kind of raise and lay the foundation for those puppies, but just talk a little bit about that, because I think that's real interesting that you get the whole family involved.
Yeah, you know, and that's just kind of how I was raised. We growing up, I got a brother that's 11 months younger than me, and then I got a sister that's 16 years younger than me. And my mom and dad, we never went to babysitters. We always stayed as a family together, and we went on vacations together. And that's kind of a big part on how I've raised my son. Is me and my wife, we stay together, and she stays at home and does things with him. We don't have to worry about leaving him at a babysitter, and we make sure that, you know, he's raised the way we want him to be raised, and not the way somebody else is, you know, maybe treating him at daycare or something like that. But my wife's a big part of several youth hunts here around the house, and uh, she's big into the show dogs, and that's kind of how we met and got together was through the bench shows, and she hunted with me some, and uh, so that's a big thing that means a lot to me is family.
Well, that's sure a blessing, buddy. And how old is that youngin' now? I remember seeing him when he was so little, and then when he went through that stage, I told you he was going to have to get him a face shield and hard hat and knee pads and elbows, because I remember, buddy, he enjoys himself.
Yep, he's 5 years old. He'll be 6 in August.
Lord have mercy, time flies.
And back to the youth hunts now. You want to talk a little bit about your wife's youth hunt she has coming up you were telling me about?
Yeah, she's got the Indiana State Youth Championship is April 30th. It's right here in Liberty, Indiana. This is the first year she's took over it. They've with COVID and everything, they haven't had it in I think a year, maybe 2 years, and she's kind of took over, and we've raised a little bit of money so we can get some trophies and prizes and stuff, and so that should be a decent turnout. And then June the 4th, at Liberty, Indiana, we got the Hannah's Creek Youth Hunt, and this is actually the same youth hunt that I hunted in the very first hunt I ever hunted in, and I got 4th in. This is the same hunt. She's picked it up. She's been doing it for a couple years now, and she took it from like a 2-dog show, 2 or 3 kids showing and a couple kids hunting. Now she's having anywhere from 40 to 50 dogs show, and we've been having about 20 dogs hunt in the hunt, and it's been growing every year. And she works real hard to get donations and put everything together.
That is absolutely great, because I'm telling you, we just finished up ours down here, and it's rewarding for the youngsters and their families, and it's rewarding for us. I know as we finished ours up, it was 4:00 in the morning. Everybody had been there Friday night and all day Saturday night, and wore to a frizzle, and we're making plans for next year, and it don't get no better than that.
And that's the way she is. She works from the day it quits to the day it starts getting stuff, and every time she sees a deal, she's buying this and buying that, and it's definitely great to see all the looks on the kids' faces. They get to come and participate in the things, and every kid leaves with something when they leave. So that's a good hunt to come to, and for the kids to enjoy themselves.
I believe our youth hunts are really growing just like that. And since we've had ours, we've been contacted by some more people that's had some questions, and we've always told them, yes, sir, buddy, we'll be glad to share anything we have. But I do believe that's on the rise, Kevin. I really do.
Without the youth, you ain't got nothing.
That is a true statement, buddy. And ours, is we have people there that share the gospel, the safety of guns and stuff like that. And I mean, food and prizes and just the kids' faces. And I'm going to just add this. There was a young man there this weekend, and we had a bicycle to give away. We had 2 bicycles, a drawing. And this young lady, she wins the first one. She's tickled to death. This youngster wins the second one. He comes up to the stage, and I'm expecting to be turning flips. But he comes up and he says, buddy, could you do me a favor? I said, I hope so. What do you need, bud? He said, would you give that to my little brother? I said, yes, we can. He said, and if I win anything else, would you give that to my brother? I said, yeah, we sure can. And I mean, that was a touching moment,
Yeah, most kids don't have a heart at that young age. They're more worried about themselves than anything else.
Yeah. For sure. And, you were talking about your son's age now. Is he going hunting with you any?
A little bit. He has been with me. He really don't like going at the night during the nighttime. We get out here in the daytime and waller through the creeks and do different things with the pups. But as far as hunting at nighttime, he's not real interested in it. He says my dogs go too far.
Well, I think it's awesome that he's going to have an opportunity in a couple of years to be able to win the same hunt that you won, when you were coming up. I mean, that's just awesome. And your wife, back to her bench showing, I mean, I think I'm sure a lot of people know this, but some of them won't, is that Bank actually was the dual grand or dual champion at the Autumn Oaks, right?
Yep. Well, I hunted him and won my cast. I treated Coon, and I think they were only hour cast, but treated Coon. He won the cast, and then she showed him the next day and won the whole Walker part in the dual grands.
There's not many dogs that can say that they can hunt like that and still show. Not
No.
many people do that. I mean, that's something that's really impressive. It means you have a well-built dog,
Yep. And then last year, another dog of my buddy's, Michael Lester, he had a dog off of Big Money. He actually won the whole shooting match. He won the overall deal in the dual grands. Big Easy was his name. Michael Lester, and owned him.
That's awesome. That really is.
Well, you just won something, last weekend, a big hunt last weekend, didn't you, Kevin?
Yeah, it's just a deal we have every spring here at our local club. They're Liberty Coon Club. They call it the Spring Classic. I won it both nights with the charm female that I have. It wasn't nothing super big, but I think they hunted about 40 dogs in 2 nights.
Hey, it's hard to win a cast. I know you've won the world championship and everything, but it's mighty nice when a fella can win a cast, much less a championship.
Yes, it is.
You're kind of one of the guys that you kind of go back and forth between UKC and PKC. You don't see that a whole lot, not at the local level like you do. Especially, some guys might hunt in the world hunt and the PKC world or the UKC world and go back and forth, but usually they'll stay local to one. Can you kind of talk about the differences that you see in the two, and maybe, I don't know, we don't want to talk bad about one or the other, but maybe talk about the differences.
Probably the biggest differences that I see is a little bit with the dog power, just the type of dogs that people hunt. I mean, it's definitely a bigger difference. Like PKC dogs, they're more through the country, treated with coons, quick, fast, and in a hurry. And UKC dogs are kind of more of what I would kind of consider a pack dog. They kind of pack up a little bit and they want to move spots, and their dogs really don't recut much off of trees. And that's really the only differences that I've seen. The biggest differences that I've seen in them.
Yeah, and that would be more the local level, right?
Yeah, the local level. Because I really ain't. I've hunted in Autumn Oaks one time. Last year was the first year I hunted it, and I've not hunted in a lot of the bigger level UKC hunts to really tell you on that. Like I hunted in the UKC World this year. It was kind of the people that I drawed in it was people that I would have drawed over at the PKC World hunt. At the bigger level.
Yeah. And that's kind of what kind of different about you, I think, is that, you hunt at the local level instead of the bigger, most people, if they transition, it's at the bigger level, or the higher level.
And yeah. And a lot of people like to see these titles on these dogs and different things like that. And I just kind of hunt the local hunts, to support them. And normally my wife will be there showing, and I'll go and I'll hunt and things like that. But that's kind of why I hunt the local UKC hunts. And now they have the Tournament of Champions where you got to get your 5 wins, and I just hunt around here around the house to get my 5 wins to get qualified for that. But that's probably one of the biggest reasons why I hunted them here around the house, is just to get my 5 cast wins.
Kevin, changing gears just a little bit. I know your son's only 5 and he's not ready for the night hunts, but if a fella looked at your resume, as we've talked about, all the things you've accomplished, and he said, I have a son or a daughter and I'm wanting to get them started in this sport, and I'm wanting to teach them the right way to do well. What steps would you give them on starting their youngster to compete in like the scholarships, the PKC Youth world championship. I mean, there's scholarships out there that's amazing to help people go to college, but just the time in our sport. So I guess my question, what would you tell a parent the steps to use?
I would say the biggest thing is to make sure the kid really wants to do it. I mean, if the kid don't want to do it, don't force them to do it, because I've seen that a bunch. People make their kids do it because they want them to do it and they just ain't into it. But if the kid really wants to do it, let the kid do it. And if, get it a dog that he likes or she likes, and hunt it, and then get to know that dog, and then kind of teach them the rules a little bit as they go on, and just kind of guide them through, not really so much just bulldog it and take over and do it themselves, and get out here in these casts and kind of help these kids, call their dog and stuff. It's about the kids. And some of these youth hunts that I run, I kind of run into a little bit of some of the parents, worried about the kid winning, and they're helping the kid call the dog. And it's about the kids. I mean, let them go out there and have fun. And if you're wanting to compete, wait until next weekend and can get out there with the adults and compete with them. Don't be out there with the kids and competing. That'd be my biggest thing that I've seen with some of the stuff that I've been involved in.
Yeah, and just, real quick before we sign off, I was going to, this is kind of Mr. Eddie's question, but I was going to ask it. So what are your goals now for you and your family going forward in coon hunting?
Just really kind of stay on the same track that we're going. Which my wife, she's qualified. She's going to try to get qualified here soon for the UKC World Bench Show, and I'm fixing to try to get qualified for the UKC World Hunt, and just trying to get qualified again this year for all the upcoming hunts, and give it a little run again, just see what we can come up with.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And does she have any dogs that she just shows, or do all y'all's dogs that y'all show hunt?
No, she's got 2 blue ticks that she just strictly shows. She won Autumn Oaks with one for the blue tick breed, and then she won the UKC World Part Show with the Walker breed, or with the blue tick breed. Them are strictly her show dogs.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
She kind of shows mine at the local level, you know what I mean, where it's not as competitive, But when it gets to the major level, she's got 2 blue ticks she shows full time.
Okay, that's cool. We need to have her on one day and talk about the showing of the dogs and stuff. I think that'd be a good podcast too.
Yeah, I'd say she'd be interested. She, like I said, she's been very successful. She's won the world show, the ACHA World Show the year that I won the night hunt, and then she also won the AKC Women's Coon Hunt with little money that they had. So, I mean, she does a lot too herself.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. That really is.
And keeping you lined out's the main thing she does.
Yeah, and she's definitely, her and his boys definitely calmed me down, because I used to be wild as a jack, and I didn't have as level head on me as I used to have as what I got now. And I'm thankful every day for them too.
Absolutely. The good Lord's blessed y'all with a family, especially a family that spends time together and enjoys what y'all do together. That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I really do think that is that's cool, and that's the most important thing that you've said all day. I think is that how y'all do it as a family, and it's great to see that. It really is. Do you have anything to? Well, one more question. Does she have her own dog she hunts with too?
Not so much anymore. She's got an old dog out here that she's raised from a pup, which I think he's 12 years old now. We only hunt him about one time a year, but she's not really replaced him yet. She had a pup out here that she sold here a couple months ago that she spent a lot of time with, that ended up the price got too good, and she got to where she couldn't really hunt him the way he needed to be hunted, and ended up selling him. But so she does still fool with him, still hunt some with me, but not like she used to.
So you have anything, Mr. Before you got anything else, or you good?
I'm good on the questions. Okay. I may add something there at the end.
You got anything else to say, Kevin, before we sign off? Anybody like shout out or any, whatever, just whatever you want to say.
Man, I think I've about covered it all, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, I from me, I thank you for coming on here and giving your time. We're almost at an hour and 45 minutes, which is great. I mean, We got a lot of good content, and I know people that are really going to enjoy this because you were heavily requested. I know you said people don't like to hear what you say most of the time, but I'm going to tell you, there's a bunch of people that do want to hear what you got to say. I promise you that, because they've told me they want to hear it. So, and I can't name everybody.
I appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate you contacting me, and I grade it, and what you're doing is definitely going to help the sport. You know, letting people know what's going on, and because a lot of people, you mentioned coon hunting nowadays, they don't even know what that is. So they listen to this stuff, and you know they'll get a little bit of an idea of what's going on and how much time we actually spend with the dogs, and how much they're not dogs, they're family to us.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely, Kevin. Well, the good Lord willing, I'll see you at the Nationals pretty soon. I'm sure you're planning on being there.
Yep, that's the only event that I haven't won with PKC. That's the Nationals, and I don't know if this year will be my year, but hopefully it comes soon. Boy,
wouldn't that be something? Well, 10-4 on that. Well, look here, we sure appreciate you spending this time with us, and I'm one on that list that I want to hear everything you say. A young man that's accomplished what you've accomplished in our sport. I'm going to listen to you, and I'm satisfied there's going to be a bunch more listen to you. If they want to gather knowledge, I'd say tune in. And as we close, Tyler always allows me a time when you talked about family and thankful. I just like to say the word that Almighty God loves us. We're his most prized possession. And anytime we want to talk to him, we can in prayer. Anytime we want him to talk to us, we can open his word, the Bible, and read it. And for us to always remember that he truly loves us. His son, Jesus Christ, paid the penalty for our sins. He gave us a pardon. He's offered that pardon to us, but we have to ask for it and accept it. And, well, I'm about done now. I've enjoyed it again. I want to say thank y'all to everyone. And Tyler, thank you for letting me be a part of this.
All right. And thank you, Mr. A, for being a part. All right, Kevin, we'll talk to you later. And you have a good day,
right, guys.
buddy.
I appreciate it. Yeah,
yes,
you guys
sir.
too.
Yep. Bye.
Yep,
bye.
Bye.
Conkeys Outdoors knows that keeping up with the latest in hunting technology can be expensive. That's why they are proud to offer amazing financing options, from 30 days same as cash to 0% interest for 6, 9, 12, and even 18 months, depending on your credit score and the amount you spend. If you've been eyeballing that new thermal or want to upgrade to the latest in tracking system technology, go find out more on the web at conkeys.outdoors.com, or if you're in the Hastings, Florida area, stop by and visit. They'd love to have you. Conkeys Outdoors, houndsman helping houndsman. I really hope y'all enjoyed that interview as much as I did. If you like what you heard here, go on over to Facebook, give us a like at Coon Hunting U. Also, go to Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating and a review. It really helps us out. And remember, if you need a new hunting light, do not overlook Superior. They make an awesome light, best customer service in the business. Man, their walking light and double red is the brightest I've ever seen. Use coupon code CHU podcast at checkout at nighthunters.com. You can find a link in the description box below this. Coon Hunting University is a product of Audio Hound Productions. Until next time, y'all have a wonderful day.